Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it is time for our weekly track roundup, where I go over what I felt were some of the best and worst tracks of the week. Hope you're doing well, and hopefully you get some good recommendations out of this edition of the series. Remember, every track that I talk about is linked down there below in the description box. As usual, want to give a shout out to the good people over at The Ridge. They make these awesome metal-plated, minimalist, little banded wallets with a money clip or strap on the back. I've been rocking mine for a few months now. Loving it. And yeah, it's a nice front carry wallet. Fits nicely in your pocket, not all bulky in the back. And find a link to get one yourself down below with promo code Fantano, 10% off. And shout out to the people over at Amazon and Turntable Lab. We have associate links for those places down there in the description box, too. If you use that Turntable Lab one and you buy yourself a record or some speakers or a turntable, we get kickback from it. So there you go. All right, let's get into the worst tracks of the week. Worst tracks of the week. Whoop, whoop. Okay, first, Zayn with Timbaland. Too Much. New single. Sounds kind of like just a boring Justin Timberlake song. But since that seems to be one of Zayn's main inspirations and Timbaland is involved, who has worked with Justin on multiple occasions, that should be no surprise. So, again, just kind of sounds like a boring Justin Timberlake single. But I guess better than a lot of the awful country pop rap fusions on his last album. So there is that. Moving on from there, the new Robyn single, which is just way too long and uneventful. And very bright, very glitzy, very shiny, I guess. But yeah, the lyrics are pretty vapid. The vocal melody doesn't really do much for me. And overall, it's just kind of a snoozer. Let's move into the tracks that I thought were just kind of okay. Just kind of all right, but not really blowing me away necessarily. First, the new Windhand single. If you love your stoner metal, your slow, sludgy, heavy, psychedelic, very patient stoner metal, to have elements of grunge mixed in, I recommend that you give a shot to this new Windhand track over here. Grey Garden is the title of it, so give it a shot. Moving on from there, the duo known as Uniform apparently are now working with drummer Greg Fox of Liturgy fame, who's actually been in a lot of groups over the years. Super talented percussionist. And before, Uniform's sound, to me, was pretty noisy, pretty industrial. Now it seems like they're going for a bit more of a raw punk thing on this new track over here, which is titled Alone in the Dark. It's super scuzzy. It's super lo-fi. Maybe to a point where it kind of takes away from the greatness of the track, but it's still a very visceral, very like horrifyingly nasty sound and experience, which I'm kind of in awe of just how nasty this song and recording is, even if some of the riffs and some of the vocals do kind of have a standard hardcore underground, like very dirty, filthy punk aesthetic to them. Moving on from there, Sleaford Mods has a new single out, new EP on the way. I believe Stick It a 5 and Go is the name of this new track over here. Not quite as hooky as some of their more recent material, where it seems like they've been trying to do their best to sweeten up their sound to get it to appeal a little bit more widely. This kind of goes back to the raw, just straight shouted, rambling poetry aesthetics of the duo's earlier stuff, which, you know, if you like that rawer sound, you're probably going to dig on this. It seems like there's something here going on with a gripe about just misery and hatred and provocation in the social media age, specifically over Twitter on this track. So I guess do keep that in mind as you enter into this song. Moving on from there, Sinead O'Connor, recording under another name, Magda Davitt, has a new track out. And I'm kind of torn on this track. Like, there are a lot of great things about it. I love the lyrics. I love how personal and just how downtrodden and honest the lyrics of the track are. Also on top of that, the I guess her voice kind of cracks in this terribly honest way. Like the vocals are very blemished. I think that also takes away from the tune a little bit. The lack of a strong song structure kind of takes away from the track quite a bit too. But I feel like her delivery is passionate on here. The lyrics are very compelling. The emotion of her performance is certainly there. It's certainly strong and potent. I just think a stronger, I don't know, song structure here like would have been a bit more necessary to kind of make this have some more impact. But pretty excited she's recording new stuff and maybe some better stuff coming down the pipe. So moving on from there, Freddie Gibbs has a new single out titled Burn Rubber. Not bad. It's kind of grimy, hard-hitting, bassy trap beat. Freddie drops some nice triplet flows on the cut. Pretty grimy, pretty hard. Next, we have a new track from UK singer and songwriter Ella May. She kind of blew up off that remix of the track Booed Up a few weeks ago because it had some pretty big features on it. This new song over here is titled The Trip, and I found it to be much more impressive than that track. Maybe the features, in my opinion, kind of took away from her a little bit on the song, but her singing on this track is pretty great. The instrumental, very rich, very classy. There are some elements of the track that I just kind of feel like sound just like your run-of-the-mill, almost adult contemporary, very commercial R&B sound. It's very nice and pleasant to the ears. I guess I just wish that there was a bit more of a risk factor involved, that the vocal performance was a bit stronger, but she's certainly shaping up to be more impressive than I originally thought she was off of her last single. So I don't know, just kind of looking forward to seeing how she continues to grow and progress with these new singles, new series of tracks. Moving on from there, Cheer, Drug Church, new record on the way. And this single that they have recently released is titled Avoidarama. And there's something about this track that's difficult to place. One could take the flatly delivered vocals and the heavy kind of scuzzy guitars and the mid pace of the song and say, hey, this kind of just sounds like a grunge track or something like that. But in fact, the song actually sounds like, even though it's coming out in 2018, like a bit of, I don't know, proto-grunge. Like it sounds like somebody consciously trying to slow down the sounds of hardcore punk and add a bit more balladry to it. I know it's kind of difficult to sort of understand with the way that I'm explaining it. Again, some people might sort of listen to it and think, this just kind of sounds like a grungy alt-rock song or something. But I think it's a bit more, I don't know, I guess raw and rough around the edges than that. And the tune itself isn't too bad. I mean, I think the band's sound overall does come off a bit dime a dozen. Maybe it feels that way more to me because I grew up during an era where this sound was very prevalent, but I don't know. It's not bad. It's a cool single. And Death Cab for Cutie, Autumn Love, new track over here, which I was kind of impressed with some of the vocal melodies that Ben Gibbard approached this track with. The song is not nearly as, like, just throw it out the window as the band's last single, as their last song. Sure, the production is still kind of bland, and the hook is a little overboard, but still, Death Cab, this new single sounds better than the last. Maybe the new album will be decent. Who knows? And also want to shout out Anna Calvi for this new song over here titled Hunter, which is obviously the title track to her new album. Anna's always had a pretty eerie sound. This song is really no different, though I do wish there was a stronger sense of structure to it. I think the atmospheric, chilling, hair-raising instrumental is quite nice. I think her twisted, eerie, squeaky lead vocals are very evocative, but again, it just kind of feels like a stretched-out motif or a vibe as opposed to a cogent song or anything like that. But still, a potent, freaky vibe at that. Let's move into the tracks that I thought were the best this week, the songs I was impressed with the most. starting off with, Sumac, sweet Sumac. The noisy experimental post-metal band has a new album on the way, following up their recent collaborative record that I reviewed earlier this year that I thought was pretty awesome. This new song of theirs is a 15-minute monster, and it's titled Attis's Blade. Now, this song, and it seems like this new album, is different than any other core band release that they have put out up until this point, because with their last album, it's almost as if a switch has been flipped. And now, like with their last record, but again, not a collaborative release here, they're delivering longer songs, noisier songs, more experimental songs. This new track over here is loaded with like ugly, distorted, just like dissonant, freaky, herky-jerky guitar work that is really abrasive. Some pretty heavy riffs at some points on this thing too. I think maybe some parts of the track are a bit too drawn out in terms of the noisy guitar passages and everything, but I do like the bold, noisy direction the band is kind of taking things in on this new track. So, I don't know. New record seems like it could be shaping up to be one of the band's most experimental as far as, again, core band releases. So, looking forward to that. Moving on from there, Spiritualized has a new track out. They've been teasing new music for a while now, and I'm pretty excited about that. The song is titled Here It Comes, The Road, Let's Go. And like a lot of Spiritualized songs, there are elements of soul and old school rock and roll, and obviously a huge Velvet Underground influence in what they're doing. The mix on this one, and this could have a lot to do with me hearing it over YouTube, sounds kind of thin and a little rickety. I'm kind of hoping that the studio, or rather the full version that I hear later on when the album gets released, is a bit bassier, doesn't sound quite as I guess thin and jangly. But the ballad itself is very solid. I like the guitar work a lot. There are kind of like these incessant ticking, like rhythm guitar sounds or effects or samples or something persistently kind of clicking away throughout the track that are kind of strange and add to a bit of a surreal, psychedelic, experimental quality to the track. That's kind of cool. Moving on from there, moving on from there, bam. Petite Noir, which is a music project that I have only become aware of recently thanks to this new single. New album on the way, Blame Fire. This song is a fantastic mix of South African music, pop, dance, electronic music. The vocals on this thing are fire. The beat is insane. And the blend of influences is incredibly vibrant and creative. Really looking forward to sort of seeing whatever this project is going to be delivering on subsequent tracks. Again, not a music project I'm all that familiar with, but this new single is certainly making me want to become very familiar in the near future. Moving on from there, Neneh Cherry has a new track out produced by none other than Fortet and 3D of Massive Attack fame. And it's not a bad new single. Her vocals are great. The instrumental is very dark, some weird warped bass on this thing. It's kind of a mix of subterranean electronic music and soul. Just as one would probably assume, Cherry would deliver after not all these years, because she did have a comeback album a while ago, but I was kind of lacking in enthusiasm on that album, honestly. But this new single over here is actually pretty good. So looking forward to maybe some more interesting producer credits coming down the pipe on this thing too, because it is pretty awesome to see Fortet working with someone with as much popular music, history as her. Moving on from there, Moses Sumney, man. Rank and File. New track, new EP on the way very soon. This new track over here really just kind of like flipped me a little bit on Sumney. His last record, I did comment on and say that, there's a cool mix of influences here that you don't usually hear together, including elements of, just soul and art pop. And it sounded like there was like a lot of Tom York or Radiohead or Bjork vibes coming through on some of the vocals and compositions as well. But this new song over here seems like it's coming from a completely different place. not only from his wild and eccentric lead vocals, which really just like made him sound so much more distinct than I've ever felt he has sounded before. On top of that, the conscious reference to these old school military marching chants was really interesting as well, like a really smart incorporation to the composition on this track too. Just vocally, instrumentally, conceptually, just a really sharp, creative track, and very bold too. Yeah, I don't know if I could say enough nice things about this song. The new EP that this is going to be slated on it's looking like it's going to be pretty short, so I don't know. Kind of stinks that it's going to be super short as far as an EP experience, but as long as Sumney continues to drop material that is as bold as this, he's always going to be an artist to be excited for. So no matter how much material he's dropping in one go. So, all right, moving on from there. New Interpol single, number 10. Enjoyed it so much more than the last one. Not that the last single was all that bad. Felt like a more raw and aggressive change of pace, but the vocals just felt kind of yelpy and weird. But this new track over here, Paul Banks is singing in a somewhat more familiar delivery, and the tune is pretty solid as well. Kind of looks like Interpol has dropped, I don't know, the facade of predictability a little bit with their recent releases, and have kind of lit a fire under their asses again. They sound hungry again, and that's what I think has made this new album cycle pretty exciting. So Interpol, number 10. Loving it so far. And Tim Hecker, This Life. This is a nice change of pace for Tim. Nice change of pace. As you guys may remember, I wasn't too crazy about Tim's last album, but this new track over here feels glacial. You know, there's some amazing droney qualities and incredibly creative bits of sound play on this track that I think is fantastic. And it's an 8-minute cut too. So Tim is really kind of in it for the long haul on this track, and really goes the distance. Again, interesting harmonies and timbres and sound play throughout this track. Great drone. And even though, again, it is a droney track, the sounds that Tim chooses are very bold. They're very colorful. I love Tim's approach to drone as of late, because it seems like he's sticking to those euphoric, mind-numbing, kind of mind-altering qualities, but using such prickly, vibrant, intriguing sounds that it's almost as engaging, or it's really as engaging as a more formal composition. So really digging what Tim is doing once again on this new track. Moving on from there, Future has a couple of new songs out titled not Blame. One is titled Scammalot, and the other is titled Translator. And shockingly, I enjoy both of these tracks. Scammalot, because I think Future's flow on that track is so excellent. The words are more intelligible than they typically are, and I love the 8-bit quality of the instrumental. And again, to go back to, did I say, yeah, that was Scammalot that I was just talking about. Now, the other track, Translator, is a track that, it's one of the few songs from Future has a super formal chorus where you have like a literal chorus line coming in, and it's not just him kind of warbling about with some auto-tune over a barely shifted instrumental, some kind of repeated line or refrain until he just goes into his next mumbled verse. To me, it's sort of interesting to hear Future over, again, a formal chorus, but it works really well. And it seems like he's trying to be a little bit more narrative and lyrical than usual. So I don't know. It's a good instrumental. It's a great tune. It's a great vibe. And I think Future just has more musicality than usual on this track. So shout out to him. Hopefully he kind of keeps this trend up and, I don't know, realizes that there's nothing wrong with changing your sound and maturing a little bit, I guess. All right, moving on from there. This is the first Chvrches song I have enjoyed in a while, although the track is like a J-pop crossover with Wednesday Campanella, which is an act that I was kind of unfamiliar with up until this point. So yeah, you know, it's just kind of a blend of Chvrches' usual synth pop qualities with some J-pop and J-rock, and it works out really well. You know, who knew this marriage would be so functional? So yeah, Out of My Head, good single. Hopefully we see more collaborations from Chvrches like this in the future or something, or we see more, I don't know, international crossovers like this in the future, because this was cool. This was a good single. And that's going to be the end of the weekly track roundup, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you got, again, some good recommendations out of this video. Everything is linked down there below that I just brought up, along with the good people over at The Ridge, who, again, sponsoring this video, sponsoring the channel. 10% off, promo code FANTANO, if you're going to get a wallet yourself. And, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Love you, love you, love you. Believe in yourself forever.